Hello and welcome to this episode of A Stark Realization. I am excited for two big reasons here with our topics today. First is because we are going international and I have my first guest from Canada, New Brunswick to be exact. And for those of you who don't know where that is, don't worry. We'll put it up on a map. We'll even let our guest tell you a little bit more about it. And also because I have been a fan of this incredible educator. The work that she does is impeccable. It's exciting, it's engaging, and most importantly is it makes a difference. So let's go ahead and jump over right here. Please, thank you so much for being a guest today. We're excited to have you. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about you, where you're coming from, and what you do.
Well, first of all, Bradlee, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm an educator, a high school educator actually, at Kennebaecasis Valley High School in Quispamsis, New Brunswick, Canada. So New Brunswick is just above the state of Maine on the East Coast. So we get a lot of snow and cold temperatures this time of year, but it's a great place to live. So I teach high school math and actually dance as well, which is a wonderful, I know, the arts, right? Woo!
That's right.
It's a wonderful course to teach, and I've been a dancer since I was 3 years old. So we do all like traditional styles. We do tap, we do jazz, we do a little bit of hip hop. We have a vice principal in our school that from a previous relationship, he actually learned bachata, which I had never done.
Nice.
Yeah, a
There
type
you go.
of Latin dance. So he taught me last year, and now he comes in and guest teaches for a whole month with me when we do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the kids' favorite unit. Like,
Oh yeah.
for sure. Last year was the first year we did it, and the kids loved it so much. The course runs first semester. Second semester, they wanted to do it at prom. So they're
Really?
like, yeah. So they're like,
Oh,
can we
that's genius.
get together and practice and do it at prom? I was like, yes, for sure. So they were so great about it, and they did it at prom. And then my daughter wanted to do it, so one of them got up and did a little number with her. But they're just phenomenal kids, and it's so wonderful to see. Because it's surprising actually. I get a lot of like football players, soccer players, athletes in there, and some of them last year it even inspired them to go into our musical. So it's really,
great.
yeah, it's really helpful for them. But I've been at KBHS for 15 years. It's a great school, and I'm just feeling so lucky to do every day what I love.
So now some people may find that a little bit of a unique combination, math and dance.
Mm-hmm.
How did those two interests lead you to this point of being a teacher in those areas?
Well, like I said, I started dancing when I was 3. And when I was I think it was around 13, I started assisting with dance classes at my local studio, and then eventually got to the point where I was teaching classes on my own. But it kind of developed into when I got into high school, I was like, I love this teaching thing. I want to keep it going. And I love math as well. So, it was really like, well, I could potentially maybe open my own dance studio, but I was like, I was from a small town. We already had a dance studio. So I was like, I don't want to impose on my educators in dance because they were very inspirational to me. I said, I'll go into teaching. And so I taught high school and still taught dance outside of school. And I still teach dance outside of school as well. But I was at a high school council day one year, and this lady at another high school in our province had started a local option of Dance 11. She didn't really have much of a dance background. How she ran it was she mostly brought in guest teachers. And I thought, wow, what an opportunity. I can now merge the two things that I really love and do it every day. Like, how awesome is that? So I filled out the paperwork and applied to our Department of Education to get a local option going for dance.
That's good. I think so often we hear, whether it's in the media or in some article or a journal, that we talk so much about left and right brain learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we really do a disservice to our students when what we mean just be saying is what you're trying to learn is a skill. Math is a skill that anybody can learn, whether you're good at it or not. You can still learn it and improve. Mm-hmm. Dance is the same way. We always hear kids say, oh, I can't do that. I'm not a dancer. Guess what? Whenever I have my students that say that, I refer them back to Bruno Mars. Mm-hmm. Bruno Mars is an amazing dancer. But when you go back and you watch some of his first videos from his first album, he was terrible.
Yeah.
His first public performances, he was an awful dancer. But you see him today, he's amazing. he's got some great moves because he learned the skills. So it doesn't matter if you're artistic or not, if you're left brain, right brain, you can learn skills of math and dance and improve. And I think students need to realize that's an important thing, that they
Yeah.
can do hard things.
Exactly. And I mean, like, I just think of this year, I had a boy in my class, his name was Braden, and he was a football player. And I said our first unit was tap dance. And he was kind of like, you could tell just looking at his face, he's like, oh, geez, I got to wear those shoes with the metal things on the bottom type thing. But, really, by the end of it, I'm not going to lie. And there was dancers, like girls that have danced since they were little in the class. He was one of the best tap dancers in the whole class. And for his exam, his group actually chose to do a tap dance as part of their final exam. And I was joking with him one day, and I said, Braden, like, you do realize that Chloe's putting in a 30-second solo in the last thing, just joking. He's like, really? What am I doing? Like, he was all excited. So he was totally into it. And it's just like sports, right? Like you said, when you play sports, it's a skill. Dance is a skill. And they can learn.
Yep. And I'm sure his coaches appreciate him working on footwork. So that's
exactly.
Football. That's awesome. And so that segues perfectly into our discussion that we first wanted to talk about, because you're talking about these students who typically may not be involved in certain these areas, but they're branching out. You do an incredible job at your school in making students feel welcome. And I know that a lot of times everyone thinks, well, all schools do that, but you know what? They don't. No. Sometimes schools is just run as a school. Sometimes it's run as a business. And not everybody feels welcome. How do you guys do that? How do you approach that at your school to make sure that every single student that walks through those doors feels like they have a home and a place they belong?
Well, one of the very first things, if you were to walk in the front door of my school tomorrow morning, my principal stands at the door every single morning and greets the kids and says good morning. It actually was kind of funny. A couple years ago, we have an entrepreneurship course in our school, and they have a market where they have to make items to sell. And she says good morning to them all, and she likes for them to say back, good morning, Mrs. Jensen. One of the kids actually designed ball caps and had them embroidered that said, good morning, Mrs. Jensen. So all of these kids in our school now have these ball caps that say, good morning, Mrs. Jensen. And they sold like hotcakes. Like, I think he sold out in 25 minutes or something like that, and then had orders for more. So that's the first thing when you walk in our building. You'll see her standing at the door, and she hates to be out of the building. So sometimes I fill in the office as well. So if I'm in for her, I make sure I go and stand in her spot so the kids are still feeling welcome when they walk in the building.
Good.
And some of the other things that we do too, like our grade 9s, as you know, in any high school, when they come in, that's a big thing to try to get them to feel comfortable and welcome, because coming to high school is a big change, right?
Absolutely.
It's a big change. Our high school is actually fed by 2 middle schools, and we have a population of roughly 1,050 students. So it's a large school, and their middle schools might not have been that big. Actually, they aren't, I know for a fact. But so what we do, I mean, many districts do this. They have like a grade 9 transition day, so they're the only ones in the building. But what I had actually started this in my advisory, which is our homeroom. So we have the same kids for 4 years. And then it developed into our Renaissance team, which works on school culture and climate, taking it on. And we actually design a welcome bag for every single grade 9 in the building. So there's things in it, like we have a Crusader t-shirt, because Crusaders are our mascot. We have a t-shirt in them. So then on the very first blue and white day, every single grade 9 kid, no matter where they're coming from, no matter the walk of life, they have KV clothing to wear on that first, which is the first Friday of school. We also include a brochure of all the activities and clubs, not the sports, because the sports are always usually fairly well advertised, but of all the activities and clubs. So that would be, anything from activities, could be musical, could be fall play, could be coffee houses, and all the clubs. Plus it says the teacher advisor in there and the day that they meet. So, and it also too is an opportunity, because it says, sometimes clubs don't run every year. So if you're interested, talk to the administration to see if you can get it going again. So that's a positive conversation starter, right? So they take that home, mom and dad see it, and they say, hey, you're interested in photography. Did you know they have a photography club at KV? So it can be, a positive conversation as well. We also put in there a commitment to graduate certificate.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, so they fill out their name and then the name of 3 people that will help them. Now, every advisory teacher does this different. Some of them just give it to the kids and they keep it. But what I like to do, because in my advisory, I have a grad handprint wall. I take those certificates and I put them up above the grad handprint wall so they can see them every day when
That's great.
they walk in.
Oh.
So yeah, so it's
Genius.
pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
They love it. Like, you don't think that they like it, but they love it. And then of course we include a little thing like a pencil and a pen and an eraser in there too. So it's just something a little to welcome to the building. And it comes from their advisory teacher. Like, their advisory teacher comes and gets it. So that's their first contact with their advisory teacher. So it's a great positive first interaction.
Now, I'm sure right off the bat there, we're going to have some listeners that they're like, wait, you let kids paint on the walls? You put handprints? I mean, for some of those schools, that's going to be an absolute no-no. Like,
Yeah.
for them, that's the equivalent of vandalism.
Yeah.
How do you get that started to start getting past that stigma that, you guys, it's okay to make a school look like a school, a place that kids want to be. It doesn't have to look like a hospital. It doesn't have to look so sterile. It can actually be vibrant and fun. How do you start that process of getting to that point where you can let kids start putting handprints on a wall?
Yeah. So I just, don't tell anybody, I just did it in my classroom. But I mean, custodians walk in there and everything, and they don't usually see it. But they, a lot of times it's go to your administration, right? And start the conversation, because they're usually your first point of contact in our building anyway, for that kind of stuff. But let the kids take ownership of it. That grad handprint wall was nothing of my idea. It came from my 2017 grads that were in my homeroom, because they wanted have a way to remember them, because we always do a big either grad breakfast or grad lunch for all the kids in my advisory that are graduating, and all the kids that aren't are invited as well. But they wanted something else on top of that to remember them, right? So more of a tradition, right, for our classroom. But yeah, it's really great.
That's cool. It's one of those great things of being able to get that culture and climate of a school to say, you guys, we're here for the kids. So let them have a say, let them create something. That's exactly what they should be doing, and not feeling like, oh, we need to keep these walls white and beige for all time. Let there be a little vibrancy, let there be a little color, and let kids express themselves. I think that's an important aspect that we often miss and overlook, because we get so caught up in the mundane of the job.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's important to let the kids take the reins and lead, right? They have the best ideas sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, like the things that they think of, I'm like, I never would have thought of that, but that's so amazing. Like,
Yeah.
And sometimes too, they come to you with an idea and you think, well, we can't quite do that, but what if we change it so it's like this, right? And sometimes they'll be like, well, that's cool, but what if we do this? So it starts that brainstorming process with them too, and by allowing them to be involved really takes ownership.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you were to narrow it down for us, let's say that we're going to be asking, what are let's go with the top three. If there are the three main things that you do at your school that might be a little different, unique, or that have just really created that culture and climate that just make a difference, that other educators around the country, around, even internationally now, that they should think about doing, just, to say, hey, give this a shot. It works for us. It might just work for you. What would be your top three items that you do differently that make a difference?
Well, first of all, you have to figure out in your building, I would say, because it's going to be different everywhere, right? Like, what it looks like at my school is completely different than what it looks like at your school. But figure out the thing that your school values or respects the most, right? So one of the things like our last couple of years, my principal really values attendance, and so does the district. Actually, they have a big, push on good attendance. So what we decided to do was, rather than take the negative approach, let's take the positive approach. So one of the great things that we do is we do a perfect attendance breakfast 4 times a year. We actually have our quarter 2 one coming up the end of this week. So, and the great thing about it is, right, that's not tied to academics, right? Anybody can achieve that, right?
Right.
You're coming to school, you're doing the good thing, you're in class, you can achieve this. So what it is, if you don't get perfect attendance for quarter 1, you can try again for quarter 2 or quarter 3 or quarter 4. So it's a really quick thing. It's like 25 minutes, 30 minutes in the morning during our homeroom period. students get an invitation through their advisory teacher, and they come and they get free breakfast, as well as we have silicone bracelets that we give out that say perfect attendance and has our Crusader logo on it. But we have them done in 4 different colors because we wanted the kids to be able to distinguish like between the quarters, right? And we tell the kids, try to get a stack of those rainbow bracelets. And what we did was because last year was the first year we had the bracelets, so we did different colors for quarter 1 last year than we did this year, just to try to give kids a chance to get different colors.
And it was multiple years.
Yeah. Okay. So it was funny because a kid in my grade 10 math class, he had been at the breakfast, and I said, because red was for our first quarter this year. I said, you have a red one and a yellow one. I said, that must be from last year. He's like, yeah, I think it is actually, because we'd only done 1 breakfast. So obviously it wasn't. But as well as the bracelet, the kids that are all there get a rewards card, and they're the only ones in the school that have that. It expires like the end of the next quarter. But those are golden. Like, I've actually had kids try to get the rewards card before the breakfast. Like, they say to me, I'm going to that breakfast on Friday. Can I get it now? No, you gotta wait till the breakfast. So, but and the card is so simple. Actually, our parent school support committee paid for them when we started. We had them printed up. We left the expiry date blank so we could stamp it with the date so they could be used for multiple years.
Good thinking.
Yeah, but there's 6 spaces on it. So 2 of them are one more day on a homework and assignment. Pretty straightforward. There are 2 on there that are best seat in the house. So what that is the kid for that 1 period gets to choose where they want to sit, because maybe there's a seating plan and they want to sit at the back of the class. So for 1 class, I could do that. Or maybe they want to borrow the teacher's comfy chair. That's usually what happens in my class, and they'll wheel it to their desk and sit in it for the class. The other 2 spaces we have are, one is called the 5-minute breakaway. So they get to leave 1 class once 5 minutes early. And then the other one is like the most coveted square on that. I know it's going to sound crazy, but it's called a KD Quick Pass, because on Wednesdays, the church that's at the top of the hill across the road serves free craft dinner for every single kid in our school. Anybody that wants to go. Yeah, it's crazy. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so much fun. But the thing of it is, because our driveway is like up a hill to our school, so they have to go up the hill. It's a mad dash to get out there to beat the lineup for craft dinner. So with that KD Quick Pass, they get to leave once 5 minutes early for craft dinner day. It's just like, that's why they want it so early, so they can use that pass. But the thing of it is, like, why not? No, not one bit. So, but the thing of it is, you live and learn as you go along. So before they leave the breakfast, we have the kids, they have to come over to the table and write their name on the back, because we do another thing that I will talk about in a minute, that one of the kids tried to sell his rewards card for $5 to another kid, but and a teacher caught him, but it's all good. So you live and learn, right, as you do these things. But that is one of the most positive things, because, our Renaissance team oversees it, but anything on that card doesn't cost us any money. And it's all things that the kids appreciate and really want, right? As well as, our sponsors give us prizes that we draw at the breakfast. And then the last one, the quarter 4 one, we do up certificates for the kids that have perfect attendance all year, and our principal presents them at that as well.
That's cool. One school I was at, they did a best seat in the house, but they actually had that sponsored by a local furniture store.
Oh, cool.
At football games, they'd actually put a couch down on the sideline of the field, and they could sit on that couch and watch the football game, and they'd bring it in and they put it in the corner for the basketball games down on the floor, and kids would sit on that and watch the basketball games from the floor on these comfy recliners. It was pretty crazy, but it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's another thing? So, I mean, those are some great ideas. Those are absolutely brilliant, and I love them. What do you do that's so you mentioned just the culture and the climate, like within the school. How do you guys build that? How do you foster that, and to get that buy-in from everybody, or at least as many people as you can? Because sometimes as the culture and climate starts to change, you are going to get those that are resistant to that change. So how does that buy-in, what does that look like for you in your school?
Well, for one, the buy-in for the breakfast was like almost immediate, but I mean, we've been doing this stuff for a few years. Like we put it on the sign at the top of the hill, the very first one, and the phone in the office started ringing off the hook. God bless my secretaries, because they were like taking messages left, right, and center to check on kids' names. So it does take a while for these types of things to catch on, right? Because it is a shift. When we started, this is what, year 14, I think, for us. And I've gone through this is our third principal on this stuff. So comes down to, like, you have to get the kids to buy in, but ultimately you got to get the staff on board first, because if the staff are buying in and the staff are on board with this stuff, then it's going to fly with the kids too, right? So we have to, like, to get the buy-in with the staff, we always make sure we're doing stuff for them, right? To make sure that it's a positive culture and climate. But as well, you know, we had a new principal this year, or 2 years ago, sorry. And she, by, you know, just little things like her standing at the front door every morning. She's out like constantly walking the halls. At lunchtime, she's all over the building, walking all over the place. So, and
Visibility is big.
exactly, visibility is huge, and the vice principals are doing that as well. And when teachers are on prep, they encourage us, you know, if we're walking to the office, pop into the washrooms and see what's going on, right? So really just having those positive events and positive things being highlighted is really how we've built a positive school culture and climate, rather than focusing on the negative, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, and the parents have seen a huge difference too, right? Like they'll walk in the building and be like, wow, it's so calm in here. And it's just nice, right?
It's good.
You know, when you hear guests say that, it means a lot.
Yep. That's where that climate totally shifts.
Yeah.
It becomes to a point where when people enter the building, that they either see a noticeable difference, and even better is when they can feel it.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know when you walk into those buildings where it's different, right? You can immediately feel it.
Yep, it's true. It may sound crazy, but it's absolutely true.
It is 100%.
That's awesome. So let's jump into our next topic. And I know this is something that's a big element for you, and it's one that I'm really excited to hear some of your thoughts and ideas on. And it's getting students not only to recognize those things that they're passionate about, but getting them to follow it. How do you do that in your role, in the way that you work with students? How do you help inspire them to follow those passions and to make it into something that's going to become a part of their future and then themselves?
Right. Well, you have to be, to be in education, you have to be a little crazy, but I think you have to be a little extra crazy sometimes when you're talking to kids about that stuff.
Right.
But like, cause they have to, first of all, I think it's important for them to see yourself passionate about something.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, you know, they got to know that you're going to be their cheerleader, be on board with them. Right. So if you're talking to them passionately about something, you know, then you need to reciprocate that. Like find out what their interests are. So with my students on my Renaissance team, I always make sure we're talking about that kind of stuff. But also, you know, with my kids in my classes, it's one of those things, like, you know, you have to listen too. Like listening is a huge part of it. It really, really is. You know, I stand outside of my classroom between every single class. So, and unfortunately, I'm usually the only one out there, which I think is a shame, because other educators are missing out. They really, really are. But just to even hear the kids outside your room talking, you don't even have to say anything. Just listen for a little while. You hear them talking about, you know, this project that they have going on, or that thing that they're involved in. The next time they come walking down the hall, you say to them, hey, how'd that game go the other night? Or, you know, I heard you talking about going away for, you know, nationals for something, right? They're like, oh, how did you know that? Right? Yeah. And they're like, oh, you're like, oh, well, you know, I just heard you talking about it the other day. And then once you start that little conversation, then you can continue it, right? And grow it bigger. And the more excitement I think that you show about what they are interested in, it's just going to fire them up. I know, like, I've talked to other educators or other staff about the things that I'm passionate about. They're like, wow, you really love that. And I'm like, yeah. So what's that thing that you really like? You know what I mean? So sometimes you just have to turn the conversation around on them.
Yeah.
And giving them the opportunity as well to, you know, to lead a lot of times. well, might help them find that passion. Okay. Or make them realize that, hey, I had this opportunity to follow through on this project. Maybe I should try to do that with this thing that I'm really interested in, you know?
Yeah, I think that fear of the unknown really,
Mm,
really hits a lot of our kids.
yeah.
That they have something they're passionate about, but then it's that fear of, what if I fail?
Yes, exactly.
And a lot of kids would rather not attempt
Mm-hmm.
rather than fail. How do you get them past that? How do you help in that process of getting them to see beyond their own limited fear
Right.
and move forward?
You know, I say, like, if there's something, I say, let's sit down and make a plan. You know, I know it sounds so simple. Let's sit down. Let's write 3 or 4 lines about what you want to do. Okay. And then if they say, well, this is great, but how am I going to do this? Well, how can I help you? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Ask them what you can do to help get them started, right? Maybe it's as simple, they need a contact for something, or they need you to photocopy a few things. Like, you know what I mean? And have periodic check-ins with them. You know what I mean? Hey, have you completed that step yet? No? Oh, well, what's stopping you, right? What can we do to help you get past this? Because as adults, right, same thing happens to us, okay? We get busy with our jobs, or we have something we think, oh, this is a great idea, but I don't have time for that, right? You just need to start, right? It sounds so simple, but you just need to start and it doesn't have to be do everything at once. Take that first little step and then take the next step. And maybe a week later, you're going to take the third step. And sometimes things take a long time, right? They take a long time to get rolling. But taking that first step is the biggest part of the process. And sometimes too, I think not only taking the first step, but actually saying it out loud as to what your passion is and what you want to do is scary, right? It's really scary because
you're putting it out to the world, and the world oftentimes rejects that what people care about, and that's tough.
Exactly.
Yeah, I absolutely get that.
Yeah, because you feel like, oh, maybe, people won't like that. And it's hard when you're a student to get past that, right? It's even hard sometimes as an adult. You're going to think, oh, what do people think of me, right? But, something I've learned in the last couple of years, life is too short. It really, really is to not to try to do those things that you absolutely love, and to not to try to inspire people to do the things that they actually love. I had a conversation with my mom yesterday, and my mom is battling cancer. And so she has been doing a lot of art to try to, like, throughout her time with her treatment, she'd been doing art to, as a way, as a wellness for her. And one of her doctors, had talked to her, said, oh, I see that you do some painting. And my mom had talked to her, and she stopped by this week, and she said, you inspired me to start painting. And my mom said to me yesterday, she said, I didn't think that I could inspire anybody, right? Like, it doesn't matter where you are in your life, and you never know that impact that you're going to have to tell somebody to take that next step, right? It was a simple conversation, but it's something now that lady has started painting, and she's going to do more, right? Because I'm sure her job in that field is stressful as well. So she needs an outlet too, right? So if she can find that she's passionate about to help her, that's amazing.
Yeah. That didn't mean to get a little emotional there. Hit a note there with me. My dad is dealing with cancer as well right now, and part of him helping him through it is service. And so he picked up one of the things that he would do is he drives a van for veterans and helping them get to the hospital for treatment stuff that they need. And so that was just one of his ways that it's like, what, I don't need to worry about myself. I don't need to focus on me. I can focus on helping others. And that became, that was one of his passions, is being able to help other veterans. And it was one of those good reminders that I needed, is that sometimes when things are tough, when I can either look at my life and just be like, oh, why me? Why am I dealing with this? Why is this happening to me? But it's so much better when I can say, well, why not take this opportunity to learn something and to help others? And so my dad, just as you said, he probably didn't think, well, I'm not inspiring anybody. He certainly is. He inspires me all the time.
Yeah, just like my mom. Strong woman.
And hopefully, I think that our students, they need to realize that they can be that difference in someone's life. They can make that step. They can follow that passion, and they can inspire. I get inspired by my students all the time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I think that that's a missed opportunity from educators that we don't address that.
Mm,
You know how much of a difference that can make in a kid's life if we stop and go, wow, what you just said was brilliant.
yeah,
That was inspiring. Thank you for that. Or seeing an accomplishment that they made or a
yeah.
task they completed and just being like, wow, way to
And,
go. I know that must have been difficult and challenging for you, but you did it.
yeah.
That
And
inspires me.
and sometimes it's the smallest thing.
Yeah.
Like I had a kid, one day I was standing outside my door saying, "Hello, Joe, hello, whoever coming down the hall." And she's been in my advisory for 3 years. And she said, "You know what?" She said, "You're one of the few teachers that I know that calls all their kids by name. And I appreciate that." And I said,
Yep.
"Really?" I said, "That's sad." I said, "But, thanks for noticing that." So sometimes it's, with our kids, something that they're doing, just noticing that's going to make the difference in, making them pursue those passions or in their day, in their life. You know what I mean?
Yep. It is. Sometimes those little things can make a huge difference because to us,
Yeah,
it might be little, but to them, it could be their whole world.
that's right. It might be the only person, for example, that calls them by their name all day. And
Yeah.
that's sad to think.
Yeah. But it for some kids, that is their reality.
Yeah.
So maybe we can make a difference in changing that.
Yeah.
Some incredible ideas. Thank you so much for sharing those. I know that you've got a wealth and a plethora of more information that you can share and that you do share. So if we have, how do people get in touch with you if they'd like to have you come in? I know that you also speak.
Yes.
You also do some workshops and some training. So if people want to get a hold of you and get some more of these incredible ideas and have you assist them in helping shape their culture and climate of their schools, how can they get in touch with you?
We can find me on social media under Melissa Wright. My handle on Twitter is SciGoshGasp. Is my old blog handle. I think I need to update that a little bit. But as well, I have a website. It's just www.melissawright.ca. So you can catch me on there. But yeah, that's the best way. My email is melissa@melissawright.ca.
And we'll put all those links down in the description below, so check those out. And of course, make sure that you're following this on our podcast. Go ahead and subscribe to that so you can keep listening to our other future guests. Also, if you're then catching us over on YouTube, then you can go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can keep touch with all these. And then also make sure that you're following those individuals. They're going to have all their social media, just like Melissa with the amazing stuff that she's able to share. Tap into that. Use these resources. Find out what you can do to make a difference in your school, and most importantly, make a difference in your students' lives.
Mhm.
Melissa, thanks so much for being my guest today on A Stark Realization. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Keep doing what you're doing and changing lives.
Thanks so much, Bradley. My pleasure.
Take care.